Welcome to the PranaTech Podcast. Gadareth Higgs, out of which area are you from, Gadareth?
Stamford, Connecticut.
Connecticut. I was gonna butcher your name, man. I butchered your name multiple times, but please introduce the crowd to yourself. I've looked at your background. We've had many conversations, and very, very impressive background regarding health tech, biotech, medtech, and kind of been all around tech. So tell the audience about you, your background, where you kind of come from, and where you're going.
Oh, thank you, Amit. How much time are you giving me to make this background?
Anything, tell the crowd whatever you think
Okay.
is yeah. I mean, we're recording right now. You know that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. So Gadareth Higgs, principal of Higgs Insights, where I help healthcare and life sciences startups with three main things: fundraising, research, and scaling. Think McKinsey for startups, because MBB typically doesn't focus on uh, startups per se. They're focused on Fortune 100, but think of me, McKinsey for startups. I'm also a senior analyst at Grander Investment Management, a company that's essentially a group of family offices looking to expand their life sciences portfolio. So I'm helping do due diligence with them. I started Higgs Insights July 4th, birthed the nation last year. And I've already had good traction since, but my consulting background extends like some 15 plus years before. And that's why I asked. I can go more into it if you wish, or we could talk about it later. Just let me know.
yeah, no, I think that's a great start. And why did you start your own consultancy though? Because I was kind of in the same boat with my LLC for Devon MedTech Solutions, and I was tired of the corporate world, man. Honestly, and the thing is that I never knew what was going on. At least what I wanted to do from my end was I wanted to bet on myself, and I really
Yeah,
wanted to see what we can do. And it has been a struggle. It was a struggle. It is a struggle, but it keeps growing. Every day shouldn't be a struggle, but it's like the resistance kind of makes you more powerful, more stronger. And then you gain weight with muscle, right? Not fat.
exactly. Yeah, that's how you gain strength, by pushing that resistance. I totally agree. So I started after being in consulting. I did grad school, got a PhD, then worked at McKinsey for a few years. I was actually at Concert AI, which is this oncology real world data company, and I was helping them with their precision oncology services business unit, to start it up. And so essentially, they had data from DNA, RNA, and tissue data from a collaborator, and they wanted to use that to create services. So I helped them with these services, mostly patient stratification using AI and machine learning. And so I helped them develop that, started the team. But as you might know, in the startup world, whether it's like Series A, Series C, um, there's some volatility, right? And even though Concert AI is a more of a established startup, in fact, it has, between the companies that combined to collect to that collated to get to Concert AI, you have over 20 years of experience.
Yeah.
They had like a revenue shortfall that essentially, from like two major clients, that prevented them from, one, making hires, and then eventually they had to do a reduction in force. And so they cut 20% of their US workforce
Wow.
in the first round, and they cut a few more after. But I was a part of that first round, and initially I started off, left Concert AI, and I was gonna look for another full-time role. In fact, I would say most of my time was spent looking for a full-time role. But I connected with a friend from McKinsey who told me to reach out to an independent consultant who had gained some traction, who he knew through his alumni network at Duke. And I connected with him. We hit it off. He was from the Bahamas, just like I'm from the Bahamas. And I kid you not, the next day he put me onto a client. And
Wow.
that's how Higgs Insights got started. That client, essentially in beauty tech, what led me to, after getting the bolus of hours from that client, I incorporated. I actually started working with them in June, incorporated July 4th, as I said, and since then I've been scaling. So I've been reducing the time spent on full time search until, as of about a month ago, I'm not focused on full time search whatsoever, and increasing the time on my business, Higgs Insights. So that's where I'm at, and that's kind of how it got started, man.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think we have similar backgrounds as other stories. Right? All you need is one client, right? One client to
E-
really snowball something there. Call it
Exactly.
compound interest, call it whatever you want to call it. Call it, well, first of all, who's this friend of yours? Introduce me to him.
Sure. His
Who's this
name is
person?
No, seriously, his name is Kyle Shea. Great connector.
Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful guy.
yeah.
I will introduce you to him after.
Please,
I'll
please.
hold me to it. I'm on a recorded line right now, so
Yeah.
I have to follow through what I'm saying.
Don't
So
worry.
yeah, yeah.
I want to hold you to it. Okay, I want to hold you
No,
to
no,
it.
I'll do it, man. I'll do it.
No, but yeah, that's so the company that you got that first client, was that a US based company or an international
US
company?
based company. They were pre-revenue. They're still pre-revenue. They
Yeah,
still, because I recently got started.
yeah,
They're still bringing in. They're looking to bring in their product. So what I
yeah.
really did with helping her is I helped her, one, enhance her pitch deck, two, create her financial model, three, give her some advice and coaching on pitching, and then four, I actually joined the call for her pitch event that she had, and I joined the call. And as a result of course, my support, yes, but of definitely her ambition, her drive, and her just personality and being able to tell her story, she was able to get 7 out of the 11 requests from investors on that call to meet afterwards, right? And that's despite the fact that there were 3 other founders on that call.
Wow.
So that's where we're at. We're now following up with those investors and make sure that meetings go through and that sort of thing. But yeah, was really excited by the progress that we made, the impact I had on her, and the progress that we're continuing to make.
Yeah, yeah. 7 for 11. That's if you go 7 for 11 in a basketball game, field goal percentage is pretty darn good. That's not
64%,
unless you're
64%.
dunking all the time. Okay, then
Yeah,
if you're dunking
yeah.
all the time, then yeah, just don't dunk on me. Okay, do the layup. Do a layup on me. It's fine. I don't need to be posterized by you. But that's awesome. Awesome. That's amazing to hear. And your background is very curious too. Where you went to school, right? Yale University. And the thing I love about Yale is the one person that comes to mind is Eric Ries. Eric
Ah,
Ries has a book called The
yeah.
Lean Startup that I love, and I read it back and forth. It's like The Art of Start with a guy Kawasaki too. Like those type of books, I love. How they really say that these days and like especially with AI implementation, operational optimization, SEO, distribution, logistics, etc. How are you seeing like that book? I guess the Lean Startup and like with all the AI stuff going on. How do you seeing that integrated into life sciences to make like for example like regulatory approvals go faster or making a process or manufacturing process go faster? What are you seeing on the markets right now?
Yeah. Well, first of all, One the Lean Startup is a great book. I remember reading it. I remember I was in I was a part of a HTML, CSS, JavaScript software development um, program, and I was with one of my fellow classmates, and I think that's where I either started reading the book or saw it on his shelf and worked on it then. But one, I think that to answer your question, I think that AI is definitely, as we all know, people are trying to incorporate AI, or at least say that they're incorporating AI. I think what is important is to try to do it in a way that's it shouldn't be done to replace humans. It should be done to more enhance the productivity and the efficiency at which we do things. So if you look at it like that, it's not really us versus AI. It's really people with AI versus people without AI, right? And in fact, that's essentially where you get the best benefit anyway. Like if you're just trying to do it, just trying to copy and paste something you get from ChatGPT and you post it, you're not really getting the full advantage of having the human touch of it, or really your development itself. It's kind of it's not really in. And so when we apply that to the healthcare space, there are lots of opportunities really to, one, use it in predictive models. Like we're looking at a few companies that are uh, using AI to figure out the sort of um like the like prediction for like where further care would be needed, so that can help to kind of reduce costs later down the road, because of course if you catch things really quickly, then that prevents them from growing into bigger problems. So think of the an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, quote from, was it Benjamin Franklin or one of them. And
Yeah,
so yeah, and so I think prediction is definitely one. Classification definitely it can be super helpful in healthcare, and that's along the lines of what I was doing with Concert AI, like patient classification based on the data that we have. And then, of course, I think it just has the potential to kind of speed up some of the rote things that we do manually. So, for instance, if you're thinking of like curation, if you need a bunch of manual curators, you can get, let's say, 100 hours of manual creation may be able to get you to an output worth, let's say, 1,000 products.
yeah.
However, with
Times. Wow. Amazing.
but if you use AI effectively with those same number of curators, you can quite easily double, triple, depending on how well you're structured. And so I think those are the three things that I mentioned. So I think those are some ways in which we
Yeah.
should think about incorporating AI in healthcare.
Yeah. I think tell me your perspective about this in terms of what I would say you've gone through in the industry, but a lot of people don't know how to really implement AI. They just use it as buzz terms in my word, like, oh, AI, AI. It's kind of like the .com bubble. It's like, oh, pets.com or like,
Yeah,
dog.com. It's like, yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. Like, what does it do? No, it's just a domain name.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
sitting there doing nothing. Like, how are you actually executing what AI means, right? So from my end, like as I told you about my services, like I have a service as a software platform
yeah,
for regulatory approvals, regulatory clearances in the medtech space. So
yeah,
specifically submissions. And I'll give
yeah,
you a funny example how I knew that I had something interesting. I had a client that was in Canada, and they didn't believe I did a pre-sub in 2 days. That would take 2 weeks. So they thought I was lying. And I was like, well, look at the results of the pre-sub. All my pre-subs have had a 100% success rate.
yeah,
And I can say that with confidence because all my clients have been happy coming out of a pre-sub because the insights that we get from the FDA are
yeah,
pinpoint, right?
yeah.
And that's
Got it,
based off the questions that I say.
got
So
it,
what's
got it.
funny is that that's what I knew. I was like, maybe I did something wrong, but actually no, I have something actually that's there, right? And that's
Yep,
how that's execution, right? And I'm not using any type of LLMs or anything. It's just basic, smart templates, pulling the right
yep,
information in the right places. But
exactly.
if I give anyone else these ingredients, they're not going to be able to replicate it because it's a process that I've done dozens of times. Just like you've done
Exactly,
something that you've done
exactly.
dozens of times. Like you
This
can't replicate it. So like you don't. In my opinion, I wouldn't patent it because there's no need to patent it. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a good point. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can see my QR code down there. But essentially, I saw a post recently
I'm taking a
by
picture now.
a young a young entrepreneur who said something to the effect of, or relatively young entrepreneur who said something to the effect of, telling people to work smarter instead of harder is not the correct piece of advice. You only get to work smarter after years or like just a lot of time of working hard, right? Like so as you work hard, you figure out templates like you would have. You figure out ways in which to do things. You you things become a lot easier. Just like referring back to what you said earlier, you're lifting all this weight or you're having all this resistance, and then you're able to do things faster than other people would be able to do it because you already know. So the AI tools help with that, but the AI tools themselves don't do that. Like it's still your experience and how you're applying it with the technology that you have. So I think that's key, man.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, you've done consulting for 15 years before you kind of did your own thing, right? That's
Yeah,
credibility. So why do people
yeah,
trust you? Why should I
yeah.
trust you? Why should I come to you saying,
And and
why
and
serve?
Yeah, let me just state that my consultant journey started 15 years, even before I started Higgs
Really?
Insights. So during
Wow.
that time, I also did grad school, which kind of plays into a lot of what I do now anyway. So that's why I keep it in. And so my time at Yale, I did bioinformatics research, which played into a lot of what I did afterwards.
Yeah.
And so really. like how does my experience now translate into what I'm doing now and helps people? Well, my core offerings, I think I told you, fundraising, research, and scaling. If I were to go into exactly what else I do, precisely what I do within Higgs Insights under fundraising, I focus on the data room documents. So I focus on your pitch deck, your financial model, your two-page or one-page, depending on how you call it, back and front, right?
Yeah.
And so that those productions of the production of that material and getting it to the standards that I'm talking about are based on like everything that I've done over the past 15 years. So essentially, while I was at grad school, I had an amazing advisor, Ronald Breaker, who coined the term rabbit switch. And he was a stickler for getting things precisely in the exact place that they should be on a PowerPoint slide. He also told, he gave advice on how a lead should look like, or your title, to the point where like I still use that advice now. I use it in fact, McKinsey uses that advice. It's the same thing that McKinsey does, right? And so it's a matter of synthesizing your main point, and it's in a sentence at the top of your slide, right? That that sort of level of detail, in communication, in content, comes from both Yale, both from McKinsey. That's where even the education part that wasn't even directly consulting plays into what I do now. That's just the first pillar that I spoke about, fundraising. The first part of the first pillar. The second aspect of it is then making connections to potential investors. I'm currently aligned with a few investor groups, as I already mentioned one in advance. And, making those connections, that's based on, help essentially meeting people, building rapport, establishing relationships. Part of like what at McKinsey, that's part of a lot of what we did. We built relationships with the clients. We were congenial. We were service providers, right? As a consultant, you're a service provider. So that's a lot of what we do. Even in grad school, I was a part of a lot of extracurricular activities, leading groups, meeting new people. That's a second aspect of the first pillar that I spoke about. That second pillar, research, right? That under research, you have bioinformatics, obviously my Yale experience, even my undergrad experience at Ramapo College of New Jersey, and also real world data and real world evidence. That's from Concert AI, a little bit of McKinsey, also research is from McKinsey. And then finally, market research, definitely McKinsey, definitely Concert AI, lots of market research. So that's how my background plays into it. And now the third pillar that I spoke about, which is scaling, you have operational efficiencies. That first role that I had back in the Bahamas, where I helped the oil terminal essentially triple its sale price. That's what I did. Like, yeah, it was purchased for this was April 2008. It was purchased for 550 million. So it's not even starting small. It's not even starting small, and it tripled.
What year was that?
It was purchased in April 2008.
Wow.
Roughly
So that's
April
when the financial
2008.
crisis too, then right around the financial crisis as well.
And then it was sold about 33 months later, January 2011, for 1.7 billion, right?
Wow.
And that didn't just happen because when that purchase was made by Vopak, which is a Dutch company, Dutch oil holding company, they were aligned with a private equity firm called First Reserve. And private equity firms want to flip things as quickly as they can. And so the problem that they had was they had an audit and the score was dismal. I mean, abysmal, really. And so the score was really bad.
Okay.
And so in order for anybody to look at a potential sale, it was so bad that usually you would get audited every 2 years. And they said, no, you need to get audited next year. Right.
Wow.
And so to be precise, it was 49%. And so in order to get the score up, essentially, I learned like lean process improvement, ISO auditing, and I applied those principles. I looked at the things we got wrong, the things we didn't have, and I put a plan in place to get them, whether they were processes or documents. I met with people, collaborated with teams, got essentially key stakeholders to buy into it. And I directly improved our key performance indicators by doing things like going out on safety observation rounds. So that's when you go into the terminal, you check for things that are wrong, and you make notations of that. Just
Yeah.
upping the number of those. I was like the lead safety observation round guy, and I would take, like an executive, I would take the SHE manager or safety health environment manager, we call them, take them with me on the round. Then I'll take the HR manager one time, and this was like the only time she went out to on the terminal
Yeah.
for a round, right? And then I did that with different people, and that's essentially what we did. We were able in our next audit to jump up by 27 points, which
Wow.
isn't even, still not like over 90%, but still a massive jump. It was the biggest jump that Vopak had amongst all its global terminals. And so that allowed us to be a lot more attractive to buyers such as Buckeye Oil and Pipeline, which purchased us for 1.7 billion. So my experience that I outlay over the 15 plus years really has helped me to do what I do now. And so it's the culmination, it's the bringing it all together, synthesizing it, and just delivering for clients.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's phenomenal. And like, when I similar to me, like when I started the consultancy, it was strictly medtech, and now like you, I'm helping younger entrepreneurs too, like launch their companies. They're working, but they want to kind of launch a tech platform and do different types of things in the tech space, health tech space. Even one of my friends, he's a former D1 baseball player, and he wants to kind of create this wearable for how to improve metrics in baseball training as a shortstop or any position. The things that there's so much innovation right now and going, but like my question to you is like a lot of these youngsters come to me, and I have one person that I'm working with, and she's a social butterfly, and she's got good presentation skills, but sometimes some of these people are just kind of they're scared to take the jump, in a sense. They always kind of look back. But in her case, she has a full-time job, she's doing great, but she wants to kind of do something more. And what you're doing right now in terms of like presentation, helping them or your client present, right? And saying, look, I'm going to put you in touch with XYZ people. I'm going to sit right next to you. Let's formulate your pitch. Let's formulate your presentation. Let's
Yep.
really punch the numbers. So what would you say to like a youngster that comes to you saying, hey, look, I have this, but I'm kind of nervous, but what should I do about it? How do you kind of elevate people's game?
Absolutely. So I do a few things. Sometimes people reach out, and I'm very open to meetings with people. Someone reaches out on LinkedIn to connect, something that I can't recall having turned someone down. I may delay them. It depends on like when my availability is, but definitely one, being open to giving feedback and spending some time with them is the first thing I would say. The second thing would be to talk. One, assess them on where they're at, right? So for instance, if someone is telling me they're at a job, maybe they don't particularly like the job and they want to jump to something else, my first advice would be to say, and I've had an experience like this, I've spoken with someone on this recently, is that, continue, figure out, maybe there are aspects of your job you don't like now, but maybe there are people who are doing something similar within that company that you would prefer to do, and perhaps have like a coffee chat with them or an informal talk, and figure out how maybe you can do more of the things that they're doing even within your current company, right? The next thing you can do is, if you have spare time, and this is kind of hard depending on what role you're in, then you could use that time to also do similar outreach or informal interviews with people in roles outside your company that you would probably want to chat with. The last thing you do not want to do is, you definitely don't want to just leave and not have no traction with anything, because you're setting yourself backwards in terms of which one, it just takes some time to really get traction and get things going, starting from scratch. So yes, I do believe you have to at some point take a leap of faith and move in, but it's ideal if you already have the sort of traction, and that by putting your, let's say, full-time effort into it, you can grow it, right? And in today's market, you want to definitely take advantage of whatever opportunities you have, that are already within your grasp, right? Because it may take some time to find something new, and so that would be my advice. Just really, one, be open to other people in similar conditions. One, be open to giving advice. Two, assess them where they're at. And then the third aspect really is to, then you can speak from your experience, right? Because that's where it becomes that is where it becomes your message. essentially, and it's authentic, because you can able to say, hey, I had something similar, or I've seen some people do this, and
Right.
so like you can pass on the advice from that. Yep.
Yeah, and like I think we've connected on like venture starters and all these places, right?
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
you have these like, 3-minute pitches, right? And like it shouldn't be, the way I kind of go about this is like I like to really involve the audience, right? Because like the whole point is that why use all 3 minutes? Why not spare some time for a guy to ask me one question or maybe two questions? That itself will give the audience insights. But if you have 300 people waiting, guess how many other people will have the same question as Gad, right? I'm
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
someone else will be the audience.
Exactly.
Just like in high school, just like in kindergarten, it's like no question is a stupid question because someone else, quote unquote, has that stupid question, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
in that regard, it's like I think it's always a two-way street, right? Transparency is key. Like with my clients, I would
Yeah,
say like, you guys should always tell me what I can do better as well as critical criticism, just like I'm telling you, because I like
absolutely.
long relationships, just like you
Yeah,
do. Right? I want to see people succeed. I want to see people make an impact in the community, and I want to see people to really change how they've come from like point A to point Z. Point Z maybe, and then I go AA, BB, C, CC, everything, and it keeps
exactly.
going, never end. And that's why I don't know about other people, other entrepreneurs, but I don't get a case of the Mondays. And maybe tell me like what makes you excited about what you're seeing right now? What makes you like get up in the morning saying, "Let's go! I'm ready to roll, and I'm gonna really take advantage of the day and do well."
Yeah, yeah. I like. I'll answer your question, and I just want to quickly allude to something you said. Don't get a case of the Mondays. I like it, and you should. It should almost be the opposite, right? Like you get
Right.
up on Monday and they're like, yeah, I get to do this again, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
it might even be the case you might be doing it on Sunday or on Saturday if as
Yeah.
necessary.
You're right.
Yeah, but essentially, yeah, I think that yeah, I think what makes me get up and go is one is a drive to, and you hear people say this, but yes, to improve. So when I was at Vopak Terminal Bahamas, or Borco, they had one of their principles, and it was continuous improvement, and it resonated so deeply with me. I can't even tell you what any of their other principles were, but it's
Mm.
something that I've taken from Vopak and applied just across, try to apply at least across every aspect of my life, right? And so, one, personally, I try to continuously improve in certain ways. Two, I try to continuously improve the systems or the environments in which I find myself in, and then that translates to my clients, right? So they bring me a deck. I'm trying to continuously improve that, and I continue to work with them. I through our relationship, I try to help them where I can, even outside of what sort of services I'm directly offering. So that's a driving principle of mine, for sure. If I just had to pick one,
Yeah. Yeah. And like no deck is perfect, right? But from
of
my
course,
experience, I think like any investors more or less investing in the founder, right? How are you executing and what is the
exactly,
path to execution? So it's like,
exactly,
yeah, the words and the pretty pictures are cute and everything, nice bunnies in the back, whatever, cute puppy. I
yeah,
don't I'll put a puppy in the background. I don't care. I like dogs.
yeah,
The point is that they'll be distracted by it, but the less words that you have on the page and the more you're talking about what it means in terms of perspective, right? That's what
yeah,
they want to
yeah.
see. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Perception versus perspective, right? So, in one case, I think perception is important. So, for instance, if you have a crisp-looking deck, formatted properly, design is great. Yeah, that's a perception that investors are going to want to look at. But the actual perspective, what you're stating, what is what are you communicating? What is your point? Is it valid? I mean, I shouldn't even say is it valid. There's so many valid points. It's just a matter of how are you communicating in a valid way is probably the best way to think about that. And so I think it's important to have aspects of both, so content and delivery. Think of it as as binary in a similar way. That's what you essentially need you need both. You need both.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess to give a take-home message to the crowd, like, what are you seeing in the current trends in the next like 3 to 5 years, and like, how are you kind of leveraging that for your clients and like investors? Like, what do people want to see, and like, how do you plan to, I would say, implement that within your own business, but also give that insight or insights to your clients?
Sure. So I know a lot of people in the space, particularly in healthcare, life sciences too, are up in arms about kind of the uncertainty that is currently regarding whether it's funding, whether it's regulations, whether it's any sort of support, whether it's like non-dilutive through SBIR
Yeah.
or like grants, NIH, NSF, and then that translates also to the investor side in terms of like getting equity because there are just I recently heard that there are just less mergers and acquisitions that occurred last month. There was a report that mentioned that, and so yeah, this there's uncertainty for sure. There are downturns in every market. There are essentially the cycle. I don't anticipate that this will be let's say for this isn't going to go on at a definitely not in perpetuity. My point is at some point things will change. But what you want to do in the meantime is put yourself in a place to capitalize off of that change.
Yeah.
And the way in which the same things you would do previously are the same things you should be doing now. What on ventures, you mentioned venture starters. I'm going to say something that Mark mentioned on the latest call Wednesday actually. And so the life sciences pitch, he mentioned that a lot of founders think that they can just pitch and then investors will just come and then that's it.
Yeah.
They get all of their deals done just like that, right? But what Mark tried to tell them was that it's more about it's a process. You're building a relationship.
Yeah.
Sometimes investors want to see you multiple times in multiple venues before they even feel comfortable spending money if they don't already have an established relationship with you or someone close to you. And so I think we need to think about this as a long game, right? Like right now is a little bit of a downturn, uncertainty, but continue building those relationships. Continue to put yourself out there. Continue to display and tell people about your unique value proposition,
Hmm.
and continue to just make the drive and continue to improve. Right. That's as much as I can say on the founder side. And on the investor side, of course, do your due diligence, and be cognizant of to try to be cognizant of the different players in the field. So you have investors, you have founders, you have service providers. I think there's a way in which we can work together to come out of this stronger and better. So that's my take home.
Amazing. So I'm going to give you a new nickname. I'm going to call you Gadareth Continuous Improvement Higgs. Is that okay?
A
You're
little
probably like that. I love to.
a little long, but that's fine, man.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for the insights, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. And yeah, enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, and I owe you an intro.
I didn't forget either. Bye.
All right, man.